want a different size.
No, if it's a run, it's same. Yeah. It's all same.
It's kind of fake because I wash my hands a lot.
Kimberly. How about Yeah, I got you.
Hi everyone, welcome. We have my best friend and my co-worker here. His name is Gabriel Moses. If you ask him, he's a failed football player who wanted to play pro soccer, and for some reason at 18 he picked up a camera, and now we're here. You always, when we look for like influence and when we look for all of that, rarely you speak of directors and photographers.
Yeah.
How do you find and manage those influences that are not in your craft, but for some reason you translate them so well in your own visual language?
I've always studied greats in so many different spaces, you know, and what makes them so special. I didn't study none of this stuff in school. So from very young, I operated from a place of this like childish ignorance, where I was like, I don't care if it's meant to be like that. This is how I want to do it, you know, because I'm just trying, you know, and I've had no shame about trying anything. So that's how I'd always see it. I'd have no ego around it. And then I'd look at certain people, and I love greatness. I love like people who are just great, who just do it again and again and again. So I look at like the likes of like, I don't know, like your Michael Phelps and things like that. Like, and I'm like, how do you win so many gold medals and beat generations of amazing swimmers, you know? And I look at like Lauryn Hill, and I'm like, what, you made Miss Education of Lauryn Hill at what, like 22? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how, like what? You know, I've just always loved people that are almost like aliens, like you're not human, like. And I've always seen like parallels in like the way in which they operate, you know? Like I love the idea that Lauryn Hill made one album and then never gave us anything again, you know? And I'm like, that's cold. People who are so sure in their art. And those are like my role models, you know, people who either look like me or do things that I'm interested in as a human being, you know. So I look at the likes of like a Messi or like an Mbappe and things like that, and I'm like, yo, how do you do it again and again and again? Because at the end of the day, everything's a fleeting moment. So if I was gassed about something I done when I was 18, I stopped myself from doing what I'm doing at 27 because I'm living in that moment. And good and bad, they're all fleeting moments. So I try not to get too caught up in anything. And I guess it's part of like, maybe the reason I started, and it was around my mother, which made me very desensitized to a lot of my achievements. But I was always like, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Wait, I just don't
Ma'am,
like
ma'am.
What?
I need help.
With?
I need help right now.
A lot of people need help.
So my thing is, you don't want to live here.
I've definitely come from a creative family. Like the women in my life have always been creative minds. Like my mum used to teach a Sunday school and like would do all the arts and crafts workshops and things like that. And then also my sister studied fashion. Like the only TV in the house other than in the living room was in my sister's bedroom. So I'd found myself as a kid always watching TV in my sister's room, and my sister would have like these pages of like Vogue and Dazed all over her like walls. So subconsciously, at the time I didn't really know I was taking a lot of information in. And then like growing up and there being a lot of nonsense outside, it was coming home and being able to see life in pink. It was a lot of like ancestral imagery as well, a lot of my grandparents. And like these are a lot of the things that kind of informed like the work today and my style and the way in which I kind of like carry myself as well. When I was in university, so I was 18 years old, and I remember like my mum wasn't too well at the time, and I kind of like panicked. So I was like, what are all the things I might be good at? And I was like, okay, I love football, so can I try this camera thing? Like, let me give it a go. And I remember like straight away acting on it. It was like 3 a.m. in the library, and I just started making phone calls, and I was like, to one of my friends who was at Chelsea at the time, Fikayo Tomori, I was like, yeah, can we shoot like a video on your journey, you know? So I started this like project where I'd shoot a lot with like athletes telling their story, and that was my entrance into this stuff. I always say till this day that's one of like my proudest moments, because I had an idea and I made it happen straight away, you know? And I feel like in my life I hadn't done too much of that, like just taking control of things, you know. So we went out, done that in my own space, and I was able to just learn in such a comfortable environment, you know. and like understand working with a team and everything like that. But I was still very kind of like cheeky kid, so I'd just pull up on offices. I remember I'd go to Nike and just pull up on the security and say like, can I speak to someone? And they'd say like, nah, it doesn't really work like that. But it's funny, those kind of actions never really led to anything, but that was the energy I was walking around with. And funny enough, like someone at Nike reached out and said we'd seen the stuff you'd been doing, and then when I was 18, I'd done some work with Nike, and like that was like one of the first kind of like big projects I'd done. And I remember just carrying myself like I was way older than I was. I'd speak with a lot of confidence. Despite not knowing too much, I'd pretend I did. And I'd go to my DP and I'd ask questions, you know. I was always not afraid to ask. So I remember I'd do that, do it with a confidence and do kind of what I felt needed to be seen. But obviously coming in a commercial space, obviously there's maybe a product that you need to sell. There's all sorts of people that need to sign things off. So that was also like a learning experience for me. And throughout that time, I was able to just learn what I liked and what I don't like, you know, and how I wanted the world to see certain things. So that was like a good part of the education, to be able to learn in such a like commercial environment where you have to hit certain targets, but also understand my creativity and what I want to show within that space. I'd always tell them, like, I think this makes sense, because I was the target audience, but also the director at the same time, you know? So I'd be like, this is what me and my friends want to see. I remember thinking like fashion would be that space that would allow me to kind of like implement a style that I wanted the world to see. So I went out to Paris literally like with like £200. First place I went to was actually the Off-White studio with my suitcase. And I had like my hood up, and I was assisting a photographer at the time called Fabian Montique. And one of the first people I met in the office was Virgil Abloh. It was very inspiring for me to see like a black man who was at the top of his game, but also like led in such a like humble kind of way, you know, like, almost like a silent genius, you know. I found that very inspiring, and it allowed me to understand that I can be myself. I remember from there, I'd just do that, and then I'd do a leaks with Matthew Williams, and we'd make like a show film. And I'd just be back and forth between those two studios, like staying there for hours. And again, like a lot of my early years were important in terms of learning in a comfortable environment and seeing how things kind of like work. I've always been that character, like, I just need to see it, and then, yeah, I'm good. You know, you ain't got to talk too much to me, just let me watch you and see how maybe people that have made it see the little steps that they took, so you can humanize them, you know. I feel that's always like one of the biggest things, like being able to humanize like your heroes. So that being my entrance into fashion, I come back to London feeling like on top of the world. And I remember I'd always go back, and I fell in love with the idea of coming back to my mum and being like, yo, mum, we just done Nike, and yeah, I just went out to Paris and this happened and da. And it gave me energy, it gave her energy, and I just become obsessed with achieving. Like, I've become obsessed with that feeling of coming back home and telling my mum I've done this and I've done that. I always wanted to create like a crazy body of work. Like, I've always loved young people who do amazing things whilst they're young. When I'd first started, Kylian Mbappe had just like started to break through. And I remember he was killing it at age like 18, 19. And I remember he had a quote where he said, don't talk to me about age, talk to me about levels. And I was like, yo, that's the coldest thing I've ever heard. And yeah, it was that. It was like, what do you mean? Like, because I'm young, I need to do things at this level. I was like, nah, actually, I have this fearlessness that is unique to being a young person, you know, that naivety as well, like the ability to make mistakes and have no problem with it, you know. I feel like that is the best time to kind of like set the levels.
I mean, that's the only time you kind of have it, because
Yeah.
as you age,
Yeah,
you
you've got
leave
like
the
real life,
building.
you've got your rent to think about. You maybe
Yeah.
you might have kids now, you might have to look after family, you know. But whilst I was young, I used that time to make my mistakes and understand the landscape of this stuff, so I'd be better informed. And it's funny also, like, being a young black boy who wants to take beautiful images and work within fashion, a lot of people didn't see what I saw. Like, I believed in myself from the very off, but naturally, like, a lot of people didn't feel like I could do it. So from the age of 18, I found myself sometimes working hungry. I'd be like, okay, they don't think I can do this, so I need to make it by myself. I need to make it, and almost like a proof of concept, you know. It's like, yo, now I don't want the images to be super bright, and I want to hold on to a shot for 45 seconds until it makes you feel uncomfortable, you know. I had to set the pace and actually allow people to know what a Gabriel Moses image looked like, because no one was going to listen either way. So I was like, all right, let's get it done. That just become this constant drive for me, like proving people wrong. And also, I'd always be like, what's your name? Gabriel Moses. Gabriel Moses. Gabriel Moses. I wanted people to like really, the same way like a Nike doesn't sound weird to us, or like or Louis Vuitton doesn't sound weird to us. Why? Because you've heard it so many times, And I really like understood the concept of setting and creating the world you want people to see. So a lot of these moments kind of just led up to the way in which I carried myself, and like I'd use, for example, my Instagram like it's an exhibition space before I ever had my first exhibition, And I found like the beauty of the internet is you're connected to the entire world, There's nothing stopping Beyonce from just coming across your thing, And that's what I loved about the internet. I didn't have to go through nobody. It was like, this is my platform. And I always just wanted to create a body of work that, off the back of having so much rejection, I wanted a body of work that would allow me to walk into any room and be able to say, yo, Gabriel Moses, this is my thing, and you either like it or you don't like it. That was the beauty of this stuff, like just being able to just put stuff out. And I still have that same like mentality today, Like I'll still go above and beyond, and I'll still find ways. I work on the front foot in general. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I've always kind of like just ran with my stuff, because as I say, you have to create that space, And the beauty of what we have at our fingertips is we have a voice, So it's just leaning into that, and also understanding your audience and creating that kind of like community,
Your use of color
Yeah.
is basically one of the main things what you're known for. And it's really hard, I think, trying sometimes to communicate with brands, because your image is so dark, and you cannot see a product, where it sometimes is intentional because you don't like the product. And you make the image way darker than it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So first, let's touch upon why is certain coloring so important to you, because you crafted this as like Gabriel Moses language, and that's how you recognize your image.
Like growing up, my mum's big hobby was flower arranging, and she was obsessed with how colors would sit next to each other, things like that. My mum would wear like these really kind of like beautiful, bright kind of like colors. So I grew up with that same kind of appreciation of like color, and like I was very, very specific. I could sit on something for 5 days purely based on what color I want to go with. And even with my imagery, like my mum like never used to let us be in pitch black. So there'd always be like a lamp in the room or like a candle in the room. I remember I become used to seeing like shapes and things coming out of shadows, And like a lot of these things informed like my work today. And what I love is with color, it says so much and it makes you feel things. And I always loved, and when I say having an image that like speaks for you, I was like, all right, when Gabriel Moses does red, it looks like this. When Gabriel Moses does blue, it looks like this. When Gabriel Moses does green, it looks like this. Like taking control of certain things, and that is your style, and you're only gonna get red like this when you come these sides. I feel like, again, like having my own like style and identity was massive, and owning tones and things like that was like a big like thing that I wanted people to speak of when they're speaking of my work. So yeah, that's where a lot of it comes from.
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm a photographer. I just love you and your work so much, because I feel like you're so sure in your photography and your style and your visual language, and like you see a Gabriel Moses image, you know it's a Gabriel Moses image or project, anything, and like I'm wondering how you like developed that and got that visual language to translate, and how you came to trust what you see as beautiful and see worth photographing.
Yeah.
And yeah, just how you do that. Basically.
Yeah, do you know what it is? I come from a place where a lot of people don't try, We've been told this is how we're meant to live, this is our ceiling, and a lot of people don't try, or it's not cool to try. But I don't know, like from like my upbringing, my mum's always told me to try things, and there's no shame in trying. So till this day, I still see myself as a like kid who's trying, you know, and I still act like that. If you see the way I use the internet, I'm very open. I'll say that thing just because I'm like, yo, I'm trying, you know. And when people give me compliments, I always say I try. And that is really like how I live my life. It's like I feel no shame about giving something a go. So you will see my L's, you'll see my wins at the same time, but it's all me, you know. I get L's every day. I might have something on a project that disappears in a blink of an eye, you know, and I'm upset about it, but it's all part and parcel. It's just part of that journey, you know. That confidence in showing the way I see things is because this is just my perspective. And we all have a perspective. We are all artists, whether you call yourself one or not, you know. It's like when you take a picture on your phone, only you could have took that picture because it was your eye, you know, and we all have the same phone, but that was your image. And I feel like as artists, we need to just understand we're occupying our little corner of the world. Some of us are bigger than others, but we're all occupying our little corner of the world, and it's our perspective, so it's all valid. I'm just a kid who's trying, and the same way today, if some kid just pulled up at my studio, I ain't actually going to be mad at him. I'm going to just be like, do you know what? I respect the fact that he's trying, because a lot of people aren't trying and getting involved in all sorts of nonsense because they want shortcuts in life, you know? So how can you really feel a way about someone who's just trying to make a life for themselves or their families or all of these things, you know? It's the same way I'll go to Nigeria and I'll see people selling all sorts of stuff, you know, on the streets. And it's the same thing. You got to have that same mentality when you're using the internet. It's like we're all hustling, we're all trying to make a legacy for ourselves, or if it's to feed our families. So I ain't mad at anyone who's giving something a go. So I still have that same like attitude where it's like, yeah, I'll put this out because I want you to see it, you know. And if you don't like it, you keep on scrolling regardless, you know. And that's where I say people don't care. We don't care. You know, if I see something I don't like, I'm going to say, yeah, I don't like it, but who am I? And what does my opinion actually mean, you know? And I'm going to keep on scrolling and go about my day. I ain't losing sleep about it. So look at everyone else that same way when you're talking about your own work. It's like my audience are the people that appreciate it, and the people who don't aren't my audience. There's not an artist in the world that has the whole world loving their stuff. Not one. And so we've got to be at peace with that.
My name is Jeff. I'm a photographer and director. At the beginning of the conversation, you was like, your biggest inspirations is your mom and then your sister, her being into fashion and whatnot. Looking at your film, like that's something like I used to be in school daydreaming about while teachers trying to get on my back, trying to get me to do work and whatnot. Yeah. So my question is like, what are some small, unconventional things that you draw inspiration from that other people will look at and be like, that's not really the motion?
Yeah, it's real people. It's real people, and also children are like a massive one. I love how unpredictable they are. Do you get what I'm saying? And how kids can just say that thing, that the elephant in the room, you know. It inspires me a lot, you know, that confidence, and as I say, that childish naivety where as human beings, as we get older, we're like, this ain't real, this don't exist. Whereas a kid, when they're playing with their toys and they're like, yeah, and they're speaking, there's a movie going on in their head. An absolute movie. I remember when I was playing with like my Action Man and all of that, I was like, in my head, there's bombs going off and we're jumping off the and the car's coming and we're skirting. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, that's the beauty of like children, you know, and as adults, everything has to make sense now. And as a filmmaker, photographer, you're meant to be a dreamer. And that's knocked out of us through like life and all its trials and tribulations, you know. So I try and keep that childish head on, where it's like, I'm like to my producer, yeah, and then the sky's gonna turn upside down, and then this person's just flying through the sky, and then a car comes up, and do you get what I'm saying? And they're like, Gabs, okay, we could get half of that done. Do you get what I'm saying? But if I weren't that crazy, we're not seeing anything. I feel like the children that I'd see or be around, or all of these things, like really inspire me. And also I feel like with my mother, I look at her and I'm like, okay, you're in your late 60s. You've survived so much and you've seen so much and you still have a smile on your face. Do you get what I'm saying? Because outside of this stuff, we still have to tackle life, you know? And if you're going through something, you maybe might not be able to show up the same way for work, you know? So I feel like a lot of people that inspire me are the people that tackle life successfully. And I have a lot of commercial success. However, I still have to do this journey of life and, you know, and be able to get through like the trials and tribulations of that. So a lot of the people that inspire me are the people that are able to actually do this life thing, which allows you to be able to perform better, like on the work side, on the art side. And like that is it, like the people that I see when I'm walking through South London, like the people that are my friends and my family, like my community. Do you get what I'm saying? Like my real life community actually inspire me because they're doing life and they're going through all these hardships and doing it properly, you know? Because as I say, like if I can't tackle life, I'm gonna turn up on set stressed out. Do you get what I'm saying? And I can't produce the same way. It's like real life people outside of the work that like inspire me. So yeah.
Well, my name is Taye Galbadi. I'm a photographer and filmmaker. You described a great photograph as an introduction to a new way of thinking. I would love to, if you could elaborate on a bit of what that means.
Yeah, I feel like there's things that make an image a good image. And I feel like it's introducing familiar details and showing people a new perspective. So, I don't know, if I take a picture of a glass of water, we all take a picture of a glass of water, we all know what a glass of water looks like. It's familiar to us. However, all of you are showing me a new way of seeing that glass of water. And that's what we're doing. I'm not shooting nothing you ain't seen before. Do you get what I'm saying? These are all familiar details of our world, but I'm showing you from my lens, from my perspective. So, you've seen a human being before, you've seen a black woman before, you've seen a baby before, you've seen a horse before, you've seen all of these things, you've seen a car before, but you're seeing it from a Gabriel Moses lens. So it's introducing people into new ways of thinking, into new ways of seeing things that they already know, you know? And that for me is what creates like a special image. It's like, I've seen that before, but never like this. And another thing, it just has to be a good image. And I know that's subjective, but we all know what a good track is. Do you get what I'm saying? And we all know what a rubbish track is. I know it's subjective, I know. But we've got a decent, do you get what I'm saying, grasp of it. So it has to be a good image. Otherwise, no one cares what you're saying, you know?
Hi, I'm Somalia. I'm a photographer, and I was kind of wondering what your creative process looks like from like point A of like having the idea to actually executing it. Like you spoke about how important music is to you, and like I was wondering if you have like a process of like writing or like what it just looks like to evolve.
Yeah, so I'm a very unorganized person in terms of like...
Yes.
Yeah, so it's one of those where I have to get ahead of stuff. And if the only time I get to work is when I'm told there's this job here, I'm in trouble. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like I think in general, and that's why I think it's important to have a world, a visual world, because I'm making stuff that just are Gabriel Moses. So I'm writing stuff, I'm putting imagery together, all sorts of things, and like I'm like, how does it sound? How does it feel? You know? And then when it actually comes to the job, there's different times. There's times I'll stay in bed all day and just think. And it's like giving your time space to think and dream, and like, because you are an artist, you know, and that's what it is. And if you're a painter, you think about what you're gonna paint before you go at it, because we can't afford to start again like 60% of the way through. And sometimes I feel like as like photographers, filmmakers, we don't give it the same respect. You know, it's the same way I don't overshoot when I'm taking photos. I might take 5 photos and I'm like, because I've seen it, you know? And I've looked through the lens and I've painted that picture before I've pressed the shutter. And if I go, and then now we're looking for a good photo amongst 150 images, I didn't take that photo on purpose. I didn't take that good photo on purpose. However, I need to make sure I'm taking good imagery on purpose so I could do it in any place. I'm like, yeah, we're shooting in Texas, I could take a Gabriel Moses image. In Nigeria, I could take it. London, I could take it. Because I know what goes into a good image, you know? So it's just a trial and error thing, you know, and the practice.
I'm Kimberly Betancourt. I'm from Harlem in the Bronx. I'm a film photographer, artist. My question is, on the day of a big production, what are the steps you take to minimize your anxiety? Okay,
so it's changed over the years. I had a really bad habit, like when I was young, and I wouldn't sleep the day before shoots. And I'd visualize exactly how the shoot's gonna play out, like moment by moment. So it would make me very calm when I was on set because I've seen it already, you know? So I'll be like, yeah, they're gonna pose like this and then this is gonna happen and there. and it would just allow me to feel more in control, and I'd sleep when I get back. But it's like, I do things like that. But now, today, it's like understanding that the image or the film is made in the pre-production process. And if you try and take shortcuts in those moments, you'll feel the anxiety. So it's just for preparation. It's the same as if you have an exam. And the person that's been doing an hour every day all year is chilling, they're cool. But that person who tried to do it in the final hours is the person that's gonna have that level of anxiety. So like for me, it was like controlling the controllables. And understand that certain things are out of my control. Certain things might turn up late or not happen how you planned it, you know? So you have to be able to control the controllables so that you're ready for any things that, and as we all know, like in production, anything can happen, you know? This is real life.
Have you ever felt not ready when you went on the set and you were just fooling us all? Then you got it?
Yeah, 100%. But I'll always keep like a poker face. Always keep a poker face. Like, nothing's gonna change if I panic. If I panic, we're all finished. And obviously, historically, like, directors are big shouters and I want this and and I've always just understood that's not it. Everyone down to catering is important to the image. If the cast are hungry and aren't eating the right foods, you can see it in their face, you know. If the makeup artist isn't happy, it affects the image. All of these things are important. So it's like, for me, I've always understood just staying calm, because at the end of the day, we're creating stuff from our imagination. So I still have to deliver something. If I come into the edit talking about, oh yeah, we ain't got this shot because this happened and nobody cares. I have to still produce. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not good enough. It's like, I'm the one who has to like deliver at the end of the day. So I'm the person who has to stay calm. I remember in Nairobi, they stole my camera at the airport and we shoot 2 days later, but I'd never opened the camera case. And then like the assistant comes over and says like, yeah, the camera isn't there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And yeah, and we ended up shooting the whole thing on like one of the point and shoots that one of the like crew members had. And we shot a whole campaign on the point and shoot, but it's like, the tools aren't the most important thing. It's like, it's our vision and the way in which we see things, which is why a question I never answer is what camera do you shoot on? Because I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Do you ever fear that all of this is going to be taken away?
100%. But I also know, and that's why I say it's just like, it's on me to make sure I protect the blessing. Because I've been blessed enough to have certain things happen in my life. However, it can all go away if I become a bozo, you know? And that's why I say humility, if you get too excited and you think you could just do what you want or talk to people how you want or you can be celebrated for that until you're not. Do you get what I'm saying? Until there's that turning point where like, we hate this guy. Get him off, get him out of our faces. Do you get what I'm saying? And so many people, how many people have done that, you know? And we're not above losing anything, you know? And also, I will not be here forever. Do you get what I'm saying? So I want to leave a thing where I'm like, my kids can vouch and testify, and real life people can testify that Gabriel Moses was a real guy. Do you get what I'm saying? Above anything, because being talented is nothing new. Do you get what I'm saying? We've seen amazing people, but I feel like the likes of like your Virgil Ablohs, you know, now that he's not here, you see that legacy and it's gonna live forever, you know? So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Renee Simone. I'm a photographer and film director from Brooklyn, and I was gonna ask, like, if there was ever a moment in your journey where you felt like super stagnant, either if it was like emotionally or there's things going on around you that you can't like pour into your work immediately, like what's sort of your process of like not digging holes for yourself?
Yes. I remember I was in uni when I first started working with Nike, and then, you know, you get a bit excited, and I was like, yeah, I made it, yeah, we're dropping out, And then I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's like, I'm at home, I'm like, wow, I left uni. And everything's a fleeting moment. So Nike's done now, Adidas is done now, and I'm going like 5 months, no work coming in. And the funniest thing about my mom is that, like, which is why I'm ready to give her the world now, she never made me feel like I'd messed up. Does that make sense? It's like, you know when you should be revising and your mom comes and says, and you got an exam soon, you're like, oh, like, do you get what I'm saying? And she never came and said like brother, go get a job, man. Do you get what I'm saying? She just knew her son wasn't a bozo and he's trying. The concept of having work constantly is a very rare concept, and I'm blessed enough to have it today, but that's not most people's reality. So you've got to be very comfortable in like waiting for your moment and being over prepared for your moment. So having 5 months no work is a blessing in disguise. Outside of the financial aspect of it, and we've really got things to pay for, having the clarity to think for 5 months, you should be producing a great piece of work the time you get that call up because you're over prepared. So it's like using that as a blessing and being like, okay, let me stay in and work on the things that I maybe need to improve or come up with ideas, and then by the time I get called, I'm over prepared for that moment. And then you go and you over deliver in that moment because it's like, I'm never going another 5 months again, and you figure out how to like survive. And as I say, there is no shame in doing a little something on the side while still chasing your dreams. And that's why I say, like, I've never wanted to just look lit. Like, my boys, I remember running to their yards, do you get what I'm saying, and jogging to their yards like I'm on a fitness thing. I just can't afford bus money. I embraced that journey because I'm like, I'm a young man and I'm going to tell this story in front of you guys in a couple of years. So I feel like it's just embracing that journey and understanding that it is just a slow grind, and we will get to that position where things like all make sense like that.
I'm Aspen. I'm an actor and writer, and I've noticed with a lot of the brands you work with, I feel like it's a noticeable, deep like collaboration between your vision and the brand's vision. I feel like as early career artists, we're often told like, just be what the brand wants, just be what your director wants. And I'm wondering like, where's that line for us as early career artists to notice in the process, like we have a voice as well. And especially like in the industry right now, when using our voice too early could potentially hurt us.
Yeah, do you know what? Set the pace today. Set the pace today. Like, as I said, from very young, I'd put Gabriel Moses on the thing. Made by Gabriel Moses, directed by Gabriel Moses. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, so, do you know what I'm saying? So that name like stays in your head, and you've got to set the levels now. Like, what I loved, as I say, I don't really watch too many movies and things like that, but I have these role models just based off like their icon, And I loved Spike Lee and how he transcended filmmaking. He's a cultural icon, And it's like, and when I was researching like old Jordan commercials, and I'm like, why is this guy in the ad with Michael Jordan? But it's like, because he's a superstar in his own right. Does that make sense? And like, that didn't just happen. He had to set the levels. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, actually like, put himself there, And I've always loved artists that have, do you get what I'm saying? You know them without even seeing their name on stuff. But that only comes from like training your audience to understand that, So I feel like you've got to take those steps. And you sound crazy at the start, but the better the work is, these conditions, you're like, yo, we're doing it and we're doing it this way. And you have that. For every person that brushes it off, move that aside, but there's someone that's going to say yes. And from there, you've set that pace, you've set them levels. When you say like the work looks like a collaboration between myself and the brand, it's only because I had to create that world and create that environment, And I've been very blessed that, as I say, a lot of us young people have been put down by commissioners or all sorts of things, but I've been very like blessed where it's the biggest person in the room that says, yeah, he's the guy who's doing it. Does that make sense? And I feel like that's only come from just being my authentic self. And as we say, like, you are a young person, yeah? So a lot of the brands you'll probably work with, you're the target audience. So you've got a perspective that it takes 15 big grown adults at a meeting table to come up with that is just, you could do with your eyes closed, or Do you get what I'm saying? People are paying a lot of money for research for your perspective. So as the creators, whilst being young people, you're in the best position, so act like it. It's like you've got the intel.
I feel like at this stage of my career, it's hard to make my voice heard, like past the noise.
Yeah.
And I feel like at this very moment, it's more like lens-based artists than ever before. And at times it can be discouraging looking at the big picture. So I was just wondering how were you able to make your voice heard through the noise, and how would you recommend for young artists like
do you know what it is? Everything is competitive. Everything is like, it's funny, like as creators, maybe some of us have that hurdle of convincing our parents we don't want to study law or something like that, That's competitive the same way. I don't know who told them that just means we get a degree and it's cool. It's like everything's competitive. So it's like, what I love about it though is that it's an opportunity to separate yourself, you know, and we all have our perspective, but it's like, how do you show the work, you know? And the thing about this journey is that there's no actual right or wrong time for it to all click. So I've been lucky enough to start from the very off. Things have kind of like made a bit of sense, but there's someone else who's gonna win an Oscar at the age of 60 something, you know? And that is the beauty of the journey, you know, is like there's no right or wrong time, or someone might start at 18 and by 25 have to switch careers because it's just not clicking, you know? So I feel like the audience and people seeing your stuff, it's all timing, and what gives me peace with that is the way I clock onto stuff. I can find out someone's music like really late in their career. They might have done Rolling Loud or won a Grammy before I've clocked who they are. But they've been on SoundCloud, they've been on this or that platform like for years, making music. They've been busking on the subway and and I had no clue. There's no right or wrong time, and just because something happens, when we look at our peers, maybe something's happening for someone else and we think, oh, but I'm just as qualified, or this made more, like but it's like, that is just their time, you know? And what we do is we applaud it and we just wait patiently while still creating the same good work. And I say your body of work is everything, because a lot of you maybe might have come across myself and I'd been doing my thing. Do you get what I'm saying? And now you're coming across and you've found my Instagram and you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling to like 2019. You're like, oh yeah, that's my favorite artist now. When you just found it, but there was a body of work for you to come across the day you found it, you know? And now you're like, yeah, I love this guy. But I'd been doing, you're late, in fact. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, and that's fine, you know? Everyone will come across stuff at the right time. So from the perspective of myself, I could tell you that it's all just timing, you know? We're all finding stuff at our own pace, and it's all good.
I wanted to ask more of a personal question, because the work that you've done at 19 isn't the same work you've done now.
Yeah.
How do you remain true to your eye? Like, how do you, with all the noise and all of social media and all of these opinions around us, how do you make sure your eye is who you are?
I feel like I don't see myself a lot of the time the way other people see it. I'm still grinding every day and I still get stressed out, and someone has to remind me that, oh my, bro, you've done this and that. And I'm like, no, I don't care. It's like, yo, I need to, do you get what I'm saying? So I still see myself as someone who's trying, you know, and there's a target I'm trying to hit. I'm looking at the Oscars and I'm like, I need one of them. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, while we're celebrating something like that, I'm furious that I haven't even got to that space. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like the target always keeps on pushing. Does that make sense? And I love the greed of winners, you know. There's always a different target, a different ambition, and they're not caught in the hype of, if LeBron was gassed about being LeBron, he would have stopped at like 18. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just like, so you have to still see yourself as someone who's hustling, who's grinding, you know, and let the world celebrate that stuff. And like, rightly so, but it's like, it's not my job to be like over the moon about just being me, because I've been me since I was 0 years old, you know? So there are targets that I have, and you always have to kind of like reset yourself and like look forward, because celebrate the moment, celebrate the wins, celebrate the losses as well. But it's like, yeah, like I've still got to keep it pushing.
I'm someone who really believes that, like, no matter the time frame, like, hard work will always like bring you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And my question to you specifically, like, on the note of hard work, I think that there's also the flip side of it, that you have to have like faith in yourself and in your art. And I wanted to know if you had any specific like rituals or practices that you do with yourself to connect to yourself or with your art, specifically like in times when your like personal faith like might be lower than usual.
Yeah, I remember it's different things on like different projects, you know. It's like there's certain times I might call my mum and she'll say a prayer for me, you know, or she'd always tell me there's this like verse that said, anywhere that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, I've made your territory. And it was like that filled me up with so much confidence. I was like, yeah, everywhere is my home, you know. And again, when I say controlling conditions, I'm like, this is what I want my stuff to look like. This is what I want the lighting to look like. This is what I want these are the people I want working on my stuff every single time, you know? And I feel like those kind of things, like you're now putting your faith in people as well. Do you get what I'm saying? And you, like, none of this stuff is done by ourselves. I'd be a liar if I come here and said that this is all Gabriel Moses. Do you get what I'm saying? There's a bunch of people along the journey that have played a part in what you see. And I feel like community and creating a community that you trust and feel safe with is very important, you know, especially like people that look like yourself, you know, and people that are young like you and have similar ideas and similar ways of seeing as you, you know, it makes everything a lot easier. But I've always understood that I'm gonna do what I'm meant to do, you know, and I can't make any, if I get an opportunity that's not meant for me, I'll get found out. Does that make sense? So anything that came, I was just like, this is meant to happen, and I'm qualified to be here, you know, like I belong here. This isn't an accident. It's actually like the hard work that I've put in. You know, in life, everything is like a domino effect. So wherever you are, even this room, it's a series of moments that have led to this, you know. So that's how I've always seen this stuff. Is like, I belong here. I've never been into the idea of like not feeling like I'm meant to be here. Even when people would try and make me feel like that, I was like, nah. It's like, yeah, because any legend you see is a human being just like us, you know? And they had to do certain things to become your Pharrell or become this or that person, you know? So I feel like when you understand the human side of someone's journey, you can be more at ease with like how much you trust where you're going.
I want to kind of bring it back to social media, because you spoke a lot about how that was, and still is to this day, first your portfolio.
Yeah.
And I think that personality that you build on socials, first through the way you show your work, like your captions and all of it, and then second, how you go on lives and then also speak to people.
Yeah.
I think that also made you who you are now, because it's so rare as a photographer and director to do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of just want to touch upon that a little bit, because it's so not ordinary for this industry.
I ain't got nothing I need to gatekeep. I feel like the work I do and the talent and everything is like a God-given talent. So there's nothing I need to really gatekeep. I can tell you all the, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, you're gonna do what you're meant to do with it. Does that make sense? It's like, if I'm a football coach, I'm gonna tell you everything you're meant to do, but you might not be Cristiano Ronaldo. So it's giving people like just the platform to be able to at least, you know what I'm saying, try. We're all trying, you know? And as I say, like, for example, wanting to be a footballer and then football being a window into what I do today, sometimes our love isn't our final destination, do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, that love actually brings a fire into something else. So maybe we want to be a photographer, but maybe we're meant to be a producer. Maybe we're meant to be a photographer's agent. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, we will figure that out over time, you know? Like, yeah, I've always been like pretty chill with like that. And also, do you know what it is? I'm a black man that has gone into so many spaces on my own. I hate that. I'm like, there should be more young people like that look like myself, or young people in general just doing big things, you know? And if I come into these rooms and act like something that I'm not, I ain't helping the people behind me. But if I can come in there and still kill it while still being myself and having manners and all of that, then it changes the narrative where they trust people more, that without profiling them or thinking young people ain't got it like that. I've understood that if I can come in here and still be my authentic self, then it maybe makes you feel like you can feel it more, you know? You feel like there's a young person that's like, alright, okay, I ain't got to be like all of this. And unfortunately, maybe people before myself got to the top and then started, do you get what I'm saying, doing all of the nonsense, and it's like, nah, man, it's like, that doesn't actually like change the narrative, you know? Yeah, you're good and your family's good, but it's a community thing where it's like, I want people to at least have the little gems. And also, I'm not here to say I got the answers either. I don't, in fact. I'm here to tell you I ain't got the answers. This is just what worked for myself, you know, and it's for you to translate that all into your own lives and into your own careers as well.
Well, Gabs, what's your closing statement? If you had to give one piece of advice.
I mean, one piece of advice, I mean, is just, I feel like trusting that process and understanding that you get out what you put in. And that is really it, because as I say, like, At the end of the day, I'm in control of my destiny and where things go. And any blip in between stuff isn't the end of the world, you know. And that's what I always said, is just like, I don't want to be someone who's a victim to opportunity. I want to be in control and understand that whatever is coming out of Gabriel Moses' mind is the only thing that like matters, you know. I didn't want to constantly be chasing every moment. Like, I've always understood that I'm not meant to do everything. You know, when we look at some of the greats, they haven't shot 50 campaigns, you know. Some of them have shot none, you know, and their work just translates and lives years beyond their time, you know. But it's just like, make yourself the opportunity where people will do anything to have you, you know, be a part of these moments. And then I feel like you become a lot more comfortable within your journey. But it may take 15 years, it may take 5 minutes. Everyone's got a different moment, you know. But life will not cheat you, and you'll get the rewards, maybe even in a way that you didn't think it was gonna happen. But yeah, what you put in, you'll 100% be rewarded in this life. Yeah, one way or another. So yeah, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you all.